like to introduce you to John Holder. John wants us to imagine that we're a group of business owners or directors of small to medium-sized firms. John is here today as a business development expert. So welcome to John Holder.
I have some good news to share with you, and I'm probably going to be shattering a couple of myths. If this is your idea of a business plan, page after page, spreadsheet printouts, sorry, that may work in the corporate world. Been there, done that. I was even guilty of putting them together. They're put together by accountants, for accountants. They're usually called something like a strategic plan. Nobody looks at the damn things for 5 years. Oh, and the worst bit of all was, they tell lies. We contributed. Did it say that within that 5-year window our site was going to close? No. That's why I say it tells lies. That's one of the pearls of wrinkled wisdom I may be sharing with you this afternoon. You see, I believe there is a much better way. I've been in business on my own account for 15 years now, and I've learned a lot of lessons the hard way. So if I appear to have a rather lopsided, distorted face, that's because I've fallen smack down flat on it too many times by getting it wrong, and I'm here with the intention of saving you some of that pain. There is a much better way than that for a business plan for the smaller business. I'm suggesting that what you need is something which is 2/3 heart, 1/3 head. It's concise, easily communicable, and it's a motivational tool. Motivating you, especially on cold, dark, dreary winter's mornings, and your staff, and inspires outside agencies that you need to support you. People like banks, solicitors, accountants even. I'm suggesting something in total contrast to that I'm calling a pocket-sized business plan. I'll introduce you to this concept and then explain exactly why the most important part is that vital. Somebody that works with me to pull one of these together will start by looking at what their goals are. It's no accident that this is a trifold sheet because it's a convenient way of splitting it into 6 sections. And we start by looking at what their goals and aspirations are. And I'm not talking about little goals. You may have heard one or two other people talking about bags, big, hairy, audacious goals. So if somebody said to you, well, actually, yeah, what I really, really want is to climb Everest. Okay, great. How are we going to do that? How can we achieve that? Let's work backwards, step it back. And they then realise their business is not going to achieve that for them as it is right now. Okay. So we would then realise that what they needed to do was have a much bigger business, perhaps, than they currently have, and that it would also need to be able to work without them in it all the time, because they would need time to go off and prepare, as well as the time to actually climb Mount Everest. So that would then lead us into the second part, the unique marketing proposition, which is written in very emotional terms, as I say, partly to motivate the owner and the staff, but to excite the marketplace and draw other external partners to you as well. I will return to that shortly. Building from that, what I call mind the gap. There's a gap between where the business is and where it needs to be. So we look at what steps they would need to take in order, and this would be over a 12-month period. What steps they would need to take to change the business in that way. Which then leads us to the fourth part, the strategies that they're going to adopt over the next 12 months. Some of you may find that an alien concept, but when you've got a strategic framework in place, everything becomes so much easier. You're no longer reactive and on tactics. You now have a focus and a consistent framework to move forward on. And what makes this so almighty powerful is the last section is an action plan. Any of you fans of to-do lists? So I know that's an out of favour term, but you know what I mean when I talk about a to-do list. The strength of these is you tick things off and then you put a new one together. And what that means is every time you change the action plan on this, you have come up with an updated version of the business plan. The action plan as part of this is not the full picture. You may have a list that long of action points that you will need to take to implement the strategies to achieve those steps that you're looking to achieve to change your business. But maybe it's only that top 10 that you're showing on the plan on day one. Now, business plans have various purposes. This is intended to really help you, the business owner, achieve your aims and make the business, create the business you always wanted. However, with this model, if you need finance, you can get the accountants to put a few projections together, nothing like that ridiculous one, which will satisfy the banks. However, have you noticed, any rugby fans amongst you, rugby football? Yeah? Great. Have you noticed how the referee, he always signals really what his intention is? When he signals for the TV judge, you'll hear him. Is there any reason I cannot award this try? He's signalling, I want to give this try unless you're telling me I can't. If you go to the right bank, the bank manager can have a major influence even today on whether it's a yes or a no answer. 2 significant banks have told me, walk in with this and say, oh, this is the 5th iteration now of the business plan. Huh? They're not used to that. They're used to those things that don't change. It's changed? Oh yeah, look, that was the original one, and you weren't even on the action plan. Here you are, it's about to change again because we're just about to tick you off, coming to see you. Or they can see you're a business that acts on your plans. That instills so much confidence in them that they're looking to say yes. So, I said I would return to the core, the unique marketing proposition. That is so important because I mentioned it's written in very emotional language to appeal to the heart as much as anything else. It fires the passions. And let's face it, if it fires up the passions, it helps you overcome all kinds of challenges. A passionate person is so much more engaging and persuasive. They may not use quite the right words, but it works anyway. I'm sure we've all been in situations where somebody's passion makes them irresistible. I can think of a personal situation which at the time was somewhat frustrating. A long-term friend, hadn't seen for quite some time. He used to be a wage slave. He's now an early retiree. He is now prematurely old. And I was thinking, God, this is dragging. Been there? Yeah? Oh, can we go early? Oh. And then, all of a sudden, the lights came back on. The friend I knew 40 odd years ago suddenly reappeared. He was all animated again. He was talking to me about a couple of projects he'd got on the go, where he was helping put together 3 books. Unpaid, didn't matter, but all of a sudden he was doing something. Whoa! Was I interested in the books? No. Was I interested in the topics? No. The people he was co-writing them with? No. But all of a sudden, he was interesting because he was telling an interesting story. His passion had come through. In a business sense, which is probably the one that you will prefer, I can think back to Chris. Going back a few years, there he was. He'd had a string of pizza parlours, takeaway outlets. And that chain had shrunk down to one single unit. Typical entrepreneur, he was starting to get itchy feet. He was getting bored with just one pizza parlour. He didn't have the assistance of a systemised approach to build a business plan. What he had was an innate flair for this. He started with a dream. His dream became a vision. His vision ignited the passion. And he started making it reality. The reality for him was a new restaurant in the outbuildings, stables, warehouse, whatever it was, immediately behind the retail unit he'd been using for his pizza takeaway place. So every time I went to pick up a pizza, he'd take me into this building site and show me where they'd got to. And I was still looking and thinking, all I'm seeing is an old building that's a wreck. And he's talking about this wondrous restaurant and telling me about how the tables will look, what style of cooking they will have, and who the chef's going to be that they're going to bring over from Italy. He needed all the passion he could get to overcome the obstacles. There he was getting all excited on one occasion. Oh, I have to tell you, sometimes he used to do my pizzas 2-3 times. He kept me talking, showing me this building site so long, the old pizza had got stale, he had to start again. But he was telling me on one occasion, they were just about ready to link the ground and the upper floor with this custom staircase. And it came! 6 inches, the wrong height. Too short, I think, I can't remember. So that put them back several weeks. Did it dampen his enthusiasm? No. He just said, okay, so it's got a whole further hold up, but yeah, we're going to get there anyway. Question for you. When you get obstacles in your business, do you find you get deflected from the path you wish to choose? Do they have a really serious negative impact on you? I know they can. I know for many they do. Because I have a name for those factors. I call them passion killers. Yes, you did hear me right. I did say passion killers. But don't wave the white flag and surrender. Because if you've got the right self-motivation going on to keep that passion alive, those issues you'll just glide straight over. Ticking off your progress on the action plan. To say, oh yeah, I'm getting ever closer. Now, it always helps to keep the motivation going. Some of you will have had the benefit of hearing somebody else speak who's in this room today and talking about where you've got a number of actions you need to take. And sometimes you find you can miss one out because somehow you've either taken a bigger step than you thought and you've just taken 2 steps in one, or instead of going straight, you slightly deviated around, so you've overcome that obstacle that way. It always helps when you realise we're getting ever closer. Oh, and of course, what I love about my approach is because you're re-evaluating the action list. What's the top 10 actions required now? It gives you the opportunity to flex things if things change. For instance, if your business is seasonal, we suddenly get a mild late spring, so your ice cream sales are going to go up in May that you hadn't expected before June, July. Great. If you one of the action points was something to do with ice cream sales, you can pull that forward into the top 10 action points. It's all a case of keeping the momentum going, keeping the motivation going, and when the staff see we've got a common purpose, when the customers see this business is going places, when associated businesses around you see they're going places, we want to be a part of that journey. That is what really builds long-term success. So, how does this work in real life? Good question. One business that I took through this process, very flowery, effervescent, artistic type, and uses very flowery language as well. And at one stage I feared that he was getting a headache focusing in on what his business needed to be like and how he could build it. And his reaction to me was, headache? No! If anything, you're giving me a cerebral erection. Now, that may be an unusual testimonial, but you have to admit, it's an unforgettable quote, which is why it's stuck even in my old brain. My question for you is, where do you want your business to go? How are you going to get there unless you've got a clear vision, easily communicated to the world and his uncle? This message is of the time. There are others you may have heard of talking about strategy on a page. Well, this takes strategy and a whole load of other bits all on the same page. Concise clarity on what your business is about, where it's going, and how it's going to get there. That, to me, is the key. If you would like some help to achieve that journey, come and talk to me. If you believe you've seen the light today and that you can take your business forward using this information, that you can achieve that clarity of purpose and that focus, my job is done. Thank you for your attention.